morning. I have my coffee and we're recording a video today. Today we're going to speak about the 5 or 6 pillars of health that maybe you need to implement so that over time you can be a better person. This is all associated with self-improvement, and self-improvement comes from consciously making goals and consciously trying to create new habits so that you can be a better person over time. So let's just get started with the first pillar of health, which is diet. I talked about fasting, and so I'm just going to say that fasting and generally the content of food will determine this pillar of health. So I'll get into more things about fasting later. I will also try to connect it to research studies and also try to be more scientific conscious than just putting out information mindlessly. And so fasting will, for most people, solve a lot of their productivity problems. I have talked about how it affects productivity. You can check that video. It was my first video ever on YouTube. And so we fast because we need to focus better. Fat loss will occur over time, but this pillar of health, diet and generally fasting, or how your relationship with food is mainly directed over eating less in terms of eating enough and eating less, in terms of your body's natural cues, your hunger cues or fullness, the fullness cues, right? Your body will naturally give you signals that stop eating. That's when you should stop eating. That's what we should focus on. So actually, let me just tell you that what 2 things we need to focus on here when we talk about diet. We need to focus on some sort of fasting regimen, and we should also focus on the content of the food, and we should also focus on the mindless aspect of eating food. So I have explained fasting. Second thing is the content of the food. You have to understand that if you eat out more often, if you eat fast food, obviously you're not going to be healthy. Like it's just not, you're not going to be healthy over time. But if you eat more homemade food, and if you try to make efforts into cooking food and eat foods that your family makes, you will generally be healthy, okay? And you could try different ratios of eating out and eating at home. If you have a lot of fast foods, like it's so hard nowadays to stay on a diet. So a diet is a word that I don't want to use, but I have to use so that everyone could understand, because we have to select foods that we could eat forever. It's not just a short-term period. It's not just like for a couple of weeks, few weeks, or a year. It's long-term. So generally speaking, you should eat clean. If you eat out, it's fine, but have that ratio. I'll eat 4 meals homemade and then 3 meals outside, or 1 outside, 4 home, or 6 homemade. So you figure out a ratio for you. And lastly, I talked about natural cues that your body gives when you are full. You have to pay attention to that, because if you don't pay attention, you will get into eating disorders. I'm telling you, because all of these years I realized that I had an eating disorder, and I'm doing pretty good, because you have to understand the psychology behind it and the neuroscience behind it in order to be a better mindful eater. So if you ignore those cues, you will do that again. Okay? It's been so many times that there has been a packet of pretzel, and I just keep eating, and the half of the packet is gone. So mindless eating will also be in this category, okay? So that's number first pillar. The second pillar will be meditation. So I started meditation back in 2018, and then I kept doing it. So at that time I was a freshman in college, and then I did it for a while. I did it for a whole year. I had improvements in everything, like whatever the the improvements people talk about meditation, focus, mindfulness, everything, right? And then I kind of fall off after pandemic. Like at this point, I'm just gonna blame everything on the pandemic. So after I after we were in lockdown and after there was this pandemic, as weird as it sounds, being home and having a lot of free time, I couldn't do meditation. Like, it was so hard. It was so hard, and I have accepted it that I fall off that habit after a year or two of maintaining it, and then I fell off, and then I just recently started in 2022, and I have told myself that I'll take it slow because I was up to 10 to 15 minutes of meditation, and I just ruined it with an entire year or two of not meditating. And so I would say meditation is the key for mental health, because now psychological studies are coming out, and they want to inspect behavioral interventions in treating certain types of diseases, disorders that are related to mindlessness. That it could be addiction, that could be ADHD, and all other sorts of mindless behaviors that people indulge in. And so that's the second pillar. So number one, diet. Number two, mental health. Number three, exercise. And I'm going to divide exercise into resistance training and divide exercise into cardio. Let's talk about cardio first, because I don't have a lot of knowledge about cardio. But cardio is a way to keep your heart healthy and to keep you young. Basically, it keeps your inner self young. Like, that's how I understand it. And so, even though I would say cardio, in terms of low intensity cardio, is the best for most people. Most people cannot do high intensity cardio just because of the consequences. Okay, most people can't do. So I would say low intensity cardio is the best, like playing a sport, doing MMA, kickboxing. I think those are the best cardios. Like, for me, cardio is also dependent on time, because it takes up a lot of time in your schedule. And so for me, I consider cardio anything low intensity that keeps my heart rate going and I still burn calories. And so walking, hiking, playing a sport, MMA, kickboxing, and so those are all good forms of cardio, I guess. And then I also recently did some sprints at the end of my resistance training workouts, and those are also a good form of cardio. So anything that keeps your heart going. Maybe I'll do more research on cardio and probably post a video on it, and actually also try to do more cardio, because I'm really weak in that aspect of my exercise. So second category here under exercise is resistance training. Now, resistance training, I love resistance training. So I was just reading an article about how resistance training increases all your hormones that are important in your body, like testosterone, growth factor hormone, or actually growth hormone, excuse me, insulin-like growth factors, and you have also increases in androgen receptors in your body. And so all of these hormones are working for you when you try to do strength training or try to do some sort of resistance training. So some sort of resistance training is also important. I would say, so how should you combine cardio and strength training? It's a really difficult interaction. Okay, I think the best thing I could do is to do strength training and then do cardio, so I have enough energy and enough intensity to do my strength training first, and then do and do my cardio second, so that I am not like really being tired when I'm doing strength training, because I personally feel that strength training is the best thing you can do, even when you're not trying to lose weight, and even when you're trying to lose weight, and even when you're fasting. Like, it's the best thing you can do overall for your health. Like, strength training is you everyone should have at least a goal to become better at some sort of exercise and be stronger. Okay, and when you be stronger, you have stronger muscles. And what happens when you grow old? You have a loss of muscle, so that in your 20s and 30s you grow muscle, you strengthen them, so that you prevent further decline when you grow old. And this could also be applied to bone health. The skeletal system will also degenerate over time. You will have low muscle. You will have low muscle and bone density over time. And so the more strength training you do, you're strengthening those muscles. The more stimulus there is, the more it will grow, and the more it will be stronger. It goes for muscle and your bones. So when you get older, we all know we become weak. You fall, you have fractures. Okay. Now, if you have done strength training over time for a period of 10, 20, 30 years, my understanding is you can prevent any sort of disastrous or dangerous fractures later in life. Okay. And this also goes for back pains. Like, if you have a good posture, a good back, good strong back, you won't have back pains later in life. It doesn't make sense, because you're strengthening those back muscles. You're doing pull-ups, you're doing chin-ups, you're doing rows. It doesn't make sense that later in life you will face any problems with these issues. Okay. The fourth pillar of health now is getting enough sunlight, or getting enough vitamin D in your diet as a supplement too, right? And so why we should do that? There's plethora of studies out there that'll say the vitamins are important, okay? But vitamin D is fairly important, along with, actually, if you're just talking about mental health, fish oil is very important. So supplementing with supplementing with fish oils and vitamin D can help you, because I live in a place where there's not a lot of sunlight, and people who live in northeast part of United States, there's always clouds. There's no there to see a sun this winter particularly. It feels like it has been ages. And so supplementing with vitamin D will help you, because sunlight has incredible benefits on your circadian rhythm. Circadian rhythm is your body's natural pattern, your natural frequency of working, like natural frequency of whether it's releasing hormones inside your body, to chemical reactions inside your body, to everything. Your body is your biological clocks, someone will say. So sunlight is really important for the circadian rhythm, and vitamin D is the substance or the chemical we get from sunlight. And so it is really important for us to supplement with vitamin D, so that we don't have that missing link in our diet or our overall health. And vitamin D will boost moods, and it's often, I think low vitamin D has been shown to link with depression and depressive states and other depressive related disorders. And so supplementing with vitamin D is really important uh, for people who cannot get sunlight every day, because like people are controlled by work, people are controlled by school, so we cannot get sunlight. Like it's not possible in unless you're financially free and you could do anything with your time 7 days a week. That's perfect. That's actually the perfect life, so that you can focus on your health. But 90% of people, I think, cannot have efficient sunlight unless they force themselves to go out every day and get some sort of sunlight. But yeah, most people, I think, need to add some sort of vitamin D so that they could compensate for no sunlight in winters. So the last pillar of health, many people will neglect this. Like many people, I would say so many people, that it's actually really pathetic that people actually promote this, and people actually say things and then they want to feel proud of this. And so this last pillar of health is sleep. I think sleep is the number one thing you could do for yourself so that you could be healthy. So many people neglect this. And I have heard people saying, oh, I just sleep 4 or 5 hours and I'm so productive. I sleep at like 2 a.m. and wake up at like 6 and like I'm so productive. It's fine if you are like that person. But I don't think people need to promote that, because so many people need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep every single day to work productively. So many people need 7 to at least 8 hours of sleep just because they can function properly. I said earlier in the video that I have had an eating disorder before, to the point where I'll eat and I'll not stop eating. Okay? And so I have realized that whenever I'm low on sleep, whenever I have like 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep, that disorder that I'm talking about, that the eating beyond physiological limit that I'm talking about, will get worse that day. And that's what I'm trying to focus on here, that not sleeping enough will make you more susceptible to things that you are currently facing, problems, issues in your life. It will do it. If you don't recover at night from a good sleep, your body will accelerate at this malicious pattern, or will keep doing that malicious pattern just because you're low on sleep. And it will do it. You can see for yourself, identify a bad habit and deprive yourself of sleep, and then just look what happens. You'll do it again, because there is no top-down control. I have to make a video about top-down control. That's the idea, where your executive parts of the brain, your prefrontal cortex, your major cortical areas are not properly connected to the limbic part of the brain, so that your limbic part of the brain, the animal brain, is always active. And you do these mindless things over and over again without thinking. And when you think and when you analyze your behaviors, you're kind of making those connections again. And I think I strongly believe that sleep deprivation reduces that top-down control. Um, and so people tend to do things that they don't want to do, right? That say things that you don't want to say, right? So sleep, please have enough sleep, at least 7 to 8 hours. Some days you'll get 6, some days you'll get 5, but personally, I can be proud of this. I haven't throughout college haven't sleep deprived myself. I haven't pulled an all nighter off, and my grades are awesome, and I'm proud of it because I'm just proud of the fact that I haven't pulled all nighters, which may sound really cool. Oh, I'll just not sleep whole night and study for this exam or write this essay, but that sounds so cool, right? Well, it sounds cool, but why would you struggle? Why would you struggle? Why would you deprive yourself for the entire night? I would rather sleep than pass an exam. So sleep is really important. Make sure you get enough sleep. And people who get 8 to 9 hours of sleep, deep respect, because that's really hard. Even I can't do it. I usually sleep around 7 to 8 hours. It's actually it's actually 6.5 to 8. Sometimes it's 8, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 6.5, 6. It's just life. But the days where I have low sleep, I'm pretty bad. I'm pretty bad. My behaviors are bad. And so you have to have enough sleep. So those are the 5 pillars of health. And remember, most people can solve their own problems, and so can you.